Welcome back, everybody, to the 360 Size Up podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. She's not in emergency services, but she is a high performer. And we always have high performers on our 360 Size Up podcast. We have Erika Burk with Porsche North America. Welcome aboard, Erika.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Your title is Chief.
Yes, just like yours.
Just like yeah. So, Eric, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and a little bit about your history.
Sure. I am, where do I start? I'm from Alabama originally and grew up in the South. I am half Swiss and half American. And I think that's important because that really formed the path I took in life. I learned German at a very early age. And then when living in Alabama, when the Mercedes plant opened their doors, it felt like a natural choice to apply to Mercedes. And with the German language speaking skills, I landed in HR. And that's actually how I landed in HR. I did not study HR. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say that when I was in college, that wasn't even a field of study. Gosh. But in any case, I really loved it. And I actually have had the opportunity to grow in HR. That's been my career trajectory, mostly in German companies, but also in American companies over the last, let's just say 20 plus years, where I had the opportunity to meet you, Dan,
Yes.
at Uber. So,
yes. Yeah. Yeah, so we do have a history together. We do. And I would not just consider you a guest on the podcast. I would consider you a friend and someone that I've looked up to and that just has continued to grow in your field now to be the chief of human resources for Porsche. I think you just recently got promoted to that position. So seeing a lot of value, I guess they did in you. So tell me about that new position and what it entails.
Well, the position, I'm responsible for the human resources function for Porsche Group Companies North America. So we have 15 different companies. And of course, we've got the car business, but we do a lot more. We have retail, consulting, financial services. So there are 15 different companies in North America, and I have the privilege to lead the shared services team. I really enjoy having the diversity of the businesses under my purview. So I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Who wouldn't enjoy driving around in a Porsche and everybody calling you the chief? That sounds pretty cool.
I have to say, it is not hard to get out of bed in the morning and then get into a Porsche and drive through Atlanta traffic. Everyone hates Atlanta traffic, but if you're in a Porsche, it makes it a little less tedious.
Yeah, kind of changes things a little bit. So I want to talk about some leadership things. I want to talk about hiring, retention. I want to talk some HR stuff, but I know the Porsche brand is known all over the world. My wife really knows the Porsche brand is because she would love to be in local traffic sitting in a Porsche. Maybe one day she might get her wish, but just how important is branding and how important is it to maintain a positive brand? Is it something that's practiced every day? Is it something that Porsche says, how do you keep the brand together?
Yeah. And, I think Porsche, of course, I think does it very well, but I think many companies do it very well. And I think every HR leader and HR team strives to create that brand for their company. And when I mean brand, it's also that internal brand to your employees to make sure that they enjoy their employee experience. We say we strive to create exciting employee experiences as exciting as the cars that we build. So it is important for us because, as you said, retention is key. It is very costly to a company to have to replace employees who have built knowledge over years. But it's also very important as part of the culture. You want to have we strive to have this family feeling when you come to work. And if you have constant turnover and change, you lose that. over the years, you really build those bonds and those memories together. And that helps also keep people with the company. So, and some of the retention tools that we use, I mean, obviously benefits are really, really important. And we try to be, we benchmark all the time, but we try to be at the top of the market when it comes to benefits. And yes, you mentioned driving a Porsche is one of them. But we also do a lot for our employees when it comes to events or celebrating, even small wins. We try to celebrate. We have a recognition platform, and that's very important as well. We strive for that positive reinforcement. And then we do a lot with the community as well. And that has been very important to our employees, that community outreach and community activities together as a team, both during work hours as well as outside of work hours.
You mentioned about creating that experience. I see your post on LinkedIn and on social media with those experiences with your team. Is that strategic? Is that something that you planned well in advance of knowing that we're going to get out in the community and not only helping the community, but you're creating that experience with your team that you just said?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, there is a lot of planning that goes into that, because if you want employees to engage and to have the time, I mean, everything has to be planned ahead of time, because we have a lot of other things from a business perspective that we have to get done as well. So yes, it's absolutely something that's planned. We have certain activities that we do every year. And then every year we have new ones that come to that, to our list, if you will. So it's important that to be able to reach as many employees as we can, that we make sure that we're planning well in advance.
Awesome. Yeah, that's, I think those experiences are great. And I think that they're also really good for morale. So you probably see you get the results of that on the back end, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And, every now and then we post on LinkedIn. What you see on LinkedIn is not everything that we do. They're just highlights from certain events.
Yeah.
So
but everybody always looks like you didn't have to say smile. Everybody's always looks like it looks like a fun event. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
I like to think so, at least. I hope so.
Yes.
That's what we strive.
When it comes to leadership, Eric, and you being the chief of HR, and I can only imagine how difficult that's got to be, being in HR and all the responsibilities. But how do you keep your team, your leadership style, how do you keep that morale and that motivation going up and not kind of leveling off or dipping down?
That is not easy. And I can't say that I'm always successful in that. Of course, I don't think that's even realistic to be always successful. We're all human. But I have a little acronym. This might sound a little cheesy, but I named it after my grandmother, but it fits perfectly. It's called ALICE. So it describes my leadership style. And A is for accountability. I hold myself accountable, but I also hold my team accountable, that we're really, doing what we say and saying what we do. Leading, L for leadership, or leading by example. And that's really important, especially in HR. If we don't lead by example, then we can't enforce the rules either. That goes for every leader, and that goes for everyone in HR. I, integrity. And again, these are not in any order of importance. It just worked for this name. That's how I remember it. Integrity. So integrity is key. And that helps build also trust with your team and with your customers. For us, it's internal customers, and it's employee. It's our employees. That honesty and that integrity doesn't mean that you can always share everything with employees, but being as transparent as you can be and saying when you can't share things. I think that helps very much also with your own team. And then C is collaboration. And collaboration is important. It's very important for me to hire experts in my team. I'm not a micromanager. I don't have time to be a micromanager. And so I need to make sure that I have those experts in my team, and that I can depend on them and rely on them and really use their expertise, rely on their expertise. So many times we hire people and we don't allow them to do what they do best. And we have that fear, and we just have to trust that they know what they're doing. And sometimes we make mistakes, but as long as we learn from them, it's okay. And and then E, it's empathy, of course. Empathy, and that's important to me as well, because all of our employees, they have lives outside of work, and they know, or we don't know what's going on with them. They may have something difficult going on in their lives, and they may not share it. And building that trust and hoping that they do share so you can help them. But if you can't, just being sure that if someone is having a bad day, it's probably more to it than meets the eye, and just, extending grace. So,
what a great acronym. A lot of people have the acronyms, but there's a difference between having one and taking action on it. And I know you're the type of person that you have an acronym, but you practice it. I think that's pretty cool. And you named it after your grandmother, you said?
You did.
That's pretty good too. Hey, you just brought up in your acronym, we talked about, you just mentioned the word trust. And when it comes to leadership, if you don't have it, then people aren't following you. You don't have you don't have that team concept. It's a totally different. You either have it or you don't. And I've seen you have to get up and communicate good news, and I've seen it. You do it in having to give bad news.
Yes,
We can all be great leaders when things are going great, but when things are going bad and they're looking at you to fix it, or maybe you might even be the problem. Somebody's got to get blamed with something. And you also mentioned the word grace. I thought that every time that I've seen you get up and have to give some bad news, you did it with grace, but you did it. You did communicate it, and it had to be done. How hard is that? And what's the preparation that you have, Erika, to get up, and the confidence and the courage to give that kind of message during a time when things just aren't going good?
Yeah. That's it's not easy, for sure. And it really depends on, the situation, of course, how difficult those messages are. There have been times, I've grown into that, of course, over the course of the last couple of decades, and learned how to deliver messages that will be difficult for the receiver, whether it's one-on-one discussion with someone regarding their performance, or even their employment situation, or in front of a larger group about more serious topics for a larger group that impact the entire employee base. It never gets easy. Your heart always races beforehand, and I think if it didn't, something wouldn't be right. And so no one likes to do that. Everyone dreads it. And I'll never probably get fully used to it, but you learn how to do it, and you learn how to kind of separate it from letting it eat you up, because at the end of the day, it has to be done. And I sometimes prefer if I'm the one who's doing it, because I know it can be done with empathy, with respect. Whereas sometimes other leaders, might bring the message off a little bit more. How can I say that? Maybe a little bit, less sympathetic.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that. I think getting up and, like I said, when you're speaking, when you're during good times, it's easy finding that courage, and you don't have to dig real deep. But when you got to step up there, and the message is not going to be taking very well, that takes, to me, that's true leadership. And like I said, I've seen you in both, and you handled them both very well. I was, and we've talked about that in the past. So one of the things that I admire, so that falls right into Alice, I guess that. Yeah. One of the things too I want to talk about, it goes into leadership, is so many times in my career, I've seen people working really hard to get to a leadership position. They get there, but one of the things they didn't do was take care of their mental and physical health. And as you get older, a lot of times you're not going to get that big leadership position when you're 25 years old and your health isn't great. How important is mental and physical health to you? And does it matter in your leadership position?
As I cough because I'm getting over a cold. It is absolutely paramount. I mean, health, there's nothing more important than health. And I don't think you can do anything really well if you're not healthy, because you don't have the energy that you need to be able to give your 100% or 150%. For me, I really focus on getting enough sleep. That is key, and obviously physical activity to get that excess energy out is also key. And for me, it's just really a lot of cardio, which probably I should do some more weightlifting. I know. And but the cardio I love because I can watch my shows and then really just sweat out any kind of anger or anxiety I might have from the day. So I think that's really important. But sleep and getting that exercise and finding time. No one has enough time in the day, so you just have to make that time.
Awesome. Uh, I want to switch gears and talk about hiring and retention. The fire service for the last few years has seen uh, it's a decline in people wanting to jump in and be firefighters, and some are we're seeing where people are retiring early, and it's a national issue now with the international fire chiefs. It's a big discussion at that level. How do you? I mean, we talked about the employee experience. But when you're looking to hire people, when you're trying to maintain people, when you're trying to grow people in the company, how does Porsche do that? And is that something that's changing in the work environment? Is AI being a part of that, or what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, as far as AI is concerned, I think that's more changing the way we do things at work, making processes more efficient. And that may help with work-life balance for some roles. However, retaining employees, I think the recipe is tried and true, and it hasn't changed greatly. It's maybe just evolved, but it's people want to feel like they belong, and they spend more time at work than they do with their families, and so they need that feeling that this is almost like a, and I'm going to make it trivial, but almost like a family away from home, or certainly feel like they belong. This is, these are their people. And so when they come to work, they want to get along with their colleagues. They want to feel like they're part of that team. And I think that is so important for leaders to make sure that their teams feel like they belong together. I'm sure, I think any what's it? I don't want to say fire. What do you call that?
Organization.
Fire organization. It's so important that you all, especially you're going into burning buildings and you're saving lives, and and you spend more time even than people in the corporate world together. Because at least I remember that's the way it was at our previous employer, where you all spent, I think, 12-hour shifts or 24-hour shifts.
24-hour shifts, yeah.
24-hour shifts. It's been a while, but so you eat together, you work out together, you do your jobs together, you're always together. So you need to get along really, really well. And if that doesn't gel, then that is, certainly a reason why people look elsewhere. People also need to feel that they're valued by not only the employer, but the manager. And if you don't have a good relationship with your manager, you're not going to stay. And so, that old saying, as cliche as it is, you join a company, you leave a manager.
Yeah. So there's no new big,
No,
there's no technology. This just goes back to Alice, basically.
it goes back to Alice. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And you can throw money at the solution, but people can always find another job for more money, no matter how much money you throw at this, to kind of be a Band-Aid. It's just that, a Band-Aid.
So when you hire leaders and you promote leaders, how critical or how much focus and energy does Force put into that?
I want to speak, obviously Porsche is similar to other companies in that we have great employees, very talented employees. We often promote people who are experts and hard workers and have so much potential. We have now just launched what we call Leading at Porsche, that is a leadership program for new managers and trains them on being a manager, from the operational, tactical things to the soft skills, to even the employment law side of it and our policies. So it's really the operational side, but equipping them with also some soft skills. And that's something that we've newly launched. It's long overdue. A lot of companies have that already, but I'm really excited about that. And I know our leaders are too. That's something that I think every company should have for leaders, or for, I'll say, newly promoted leaders, because I think we forget that being a leader isn't always natural. You don't have all the knowledge automatically once you become a leader. You learn it over time. And in this day and age, you really need to know more, especially about employment law, because as a leader, you're representative of the company, and you can also be held personally liable. There's my HR hat on. But so it's really important that we make sure that our leaders are fully equipped to do their jobs.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Just from my experience, I think a lot of times companies will promote someone into a leadership position or hire them in a leadership position and just kind of let them go.
Yep.
Maybe at a mid-year review, you come back and you evaluate some things, but they never grow as a leader. So I think that's awesome. Is that headed up through HR, through your department? So
Yep.
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So, hey, as we wrap up here, I just want to, I know you've progressed, you continually grow through your whole career, all the way up to where you're at now. And you've held some pretty big positions throughout your career. If you had to, like, the experience that you got from one job to the other that you've taken with you, what are some of those things that you look back on and you grew in that position and now you're using that skill set? Or maybe it was something good, maybe something bad that you thought of that made you grow, but it's in your bag of skill sets, so to speak, that you've brought through your journey.
Yeah. You grow from good for sure, no question. But if I think back on my career, the things that made me, I'll say, more successful in subsequent positions, it was the mistakes I made, for sure. Those are the ones that I always think back on. One, which I won't go into great detail, but one thing I did learn is have patience. If you disagree with someone, decide whether this is worth battling, whether it's worth falling on the sword for. When I was younger, I had that, it's a yes or no, it's a black or white. It's everything was clear cut. And now as you get, I'll say, more seasoned and mature, you see there are a lot of gray areas. And so don't be so quick to fight every battle. And that's one of my big takeaways. Have patience. And the other I mentioned before, but as you go through life and you see, you've made your mistakes, or you jump to conclusions quickly, you learn to stop doing that and to assume that any story, there's always another side to that story. There's probably many other sides, many other details you haven't gotten. So don't immediately assume you've heard the entire story, especially in the HR function. And I used this before, but I'll say it again. Just remember that your employees, there's a lot more to them than just what you see at work. Extend grace.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I know you're making an impact at Porsche. I know you're making an impact in Atlanta. I know that that Porsche is really fortunate to have you, and I'm sure you're going to take them to a much higher level than they are today. We thank you for being on our podcast. We wish you well, and it's always great to talk to you. And thanks for sharing the leadership and also sharing your Alice.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's great seeing you again, Dan.
Thank you, Erika.